Hello viewers, Super GT here, back on the Endurance Hopper in Forza Motorsport 7. So this guy, ram cars for fun, doesn't bode well for this upcoming lobby. So doing the only safe thing here, quitting and joining a new lobby. And we've got a great circuit, an actual good track to race on. Suzuka, 9 laps. So you can see I've gone for the Aston Martin with the mightiest wing of all time. Simply unlimited downforce is available with this thing. Okay, so off the line into solid 7th into the first corner. This Porsche is just going to give up. Oh no, he's not going to give up, he's just going to lag back onto the track. These two guys go wide back through, so lose a couple of positions as a result of all of that anarchy. 2 guys coming back on. That, to be fair, wasn't too bad a rejoin. So I'm just about around the outside of the BMW. It seems like we've got plenty of lag on offer. So the Lamborghini here are taking a very peculiar line, and I just graze him on the way through. And I'm already back up into 8th. So a bit of a topsy-turvy start, it can be said. Through the Dunlop curve, the Audi taking a very undecided line. Wasn't quite sure where he wanted to go there. Go very wide on the exit. I'm through, and I'm still in 8th. I'm not sure what's going on here. So anyway, coming into the hairpin, 9 laps on offer here, so should be around 20 minutes, I would say. I think the lap time here just over 2 minutes, and then of course we will have to go for our pit stop, which will add a little bit. So into 7th now, there we go. And let's see if we can go about getting past the BMW. And not like that we won't, if we just shove him wide, and then the guy behind threatening to get back past me. BMW has recovered, so now we've settled down, and I'm back into 8th. I'm not sure what the hell's going on here. Clearly big lag issues in this lobby. But we're now going to power past the BMW. That BMW is not really one of the better cars for straight line speed, but it is very good around the corners. A little bit wide on the exit of 130R, just about recover to overtake the also recovering Lamborghini. So then, that was the end of lap number 1. It was a fairly solid lap, up into 5th place, although with a fairly big gap now to 4th. So I suppose this lap will have to be spent just getting in as solid lap as possible to try to narrow down that gap as much as possible as quickly as we can. So we've got a BMW, so the M6 GTLM, fairly newly added to the game. Always good to have new cars, and of course this Aston Martin is fairly new. It was added in one of the recent DLCs, so I thought I'd use it mainly because of the Forza Racing Championship livery. So of course FRC has begun once again, so I thought I'd just give this car a go. Doesn't seem to be the absolute best car in this class, but I suppose if you just drive it well, then you can still beat people. It's not by any means a slow car in the class, but it will be beaten by other cars overall. Tuned by F4H ForceOne, livery by the FLG, also known as the Forza livery guy. So catching up with this BMW over the course of the lap. It's always nice to have these longer races. The races tend to calm down after a lap or 2, and you can begin to just get into a rhythm, start setting some lap times, and if there's a bigger gap you can just slowly begin to reel people in. It feels like actual racing, compared to your 3-minute hopper races where it's just death and anarchy for 2 minutes and then it's all over. So coming up to 130R, second lap around, the top 3 are still a healthy amount ahead, and I've still gone very wide. I don't think this car, despite that huge rear wing, I don't think it really quite grips around the fast flowing corners as I would like, but it is a fairly good car. Now that guy he's just gonna give up and just go straight into the tyre wall on the pit entry. That's embarrassing. Look at that. He just couldn't quite control his car. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen when we go into the pits. The car is fairly leery on the rear end. When you put down the power, it does like to slide out quite a bit, so you do have to be very, very diligent on your right finger, that's what she said, in order to get the appropriate results. So lap 3 then, I'm still just going to try to slowly reel these guys in as much as possible. They're a couple of 100 feet ahead. The consolation I have really is that they're in a group. There's 3 people, and it looks like, from judging by the map, they're all very close. So there they are, going into the first corner. You can see just how close they were, and you can see the gap as well. So then coming through turn 1 and 2. Turn 1 just feels like a braking zone for turn 2 here at Suzuka. Coming into the S's, the S curves, something's gone on. Something big has gone on. I could not quite see it. So I've gone up into second. 2 of those guys clearly couldn't quite agree on a line and have had it coming together. So that is, I suppose, another result of being in very close attendance to each other. You're going to lose time because you're battling, and then there's a very good chance that you might tangle and have some sort of accident. That has happened here, and I'm going to take advantage of that, go from 4th to 2nd, and now I'm going to look to go onto the attack against the BMW M3 GT2, which looks like it's just maintained the lead from what I can tell. So then into the hairpin, looking for that late apex. Again, very, very patient on the throttle coming out of the corner. Very easy to slide the car, especially in the lower gears coming out of the slower corners. That is when you're most likely to experience some oversteer from the throttle, but we're okay for now. Into spoon, a bit of a burst of throttle in between the 2 apexes of spoon. It's almost like a double apex corner. It is kind of classified as spoon curve. It sounds like one corner, but it kind of is like 2 corners really. So then the BMW seemed to have a shaky mid-sector on this lap, making a couple of mistakes, but he seems to have recovered now. Seems to be getting his apexes and braking points a little bit better. Down the inside, a very late move, very lucky not to make contact, and I think he did just move out of the way slightly to accommodate that move. But I'm going to be right on him here. I didn't actually mean to go for that move, it was just a bit of late braking. But down the main straight, I'm just about going to get the run. So this Aston Martin clearly very, very good down the straight, and it's just about enough to take the lead from the BMW. So going up into first place in a fairly solid move down the main straight. He went defensive, fair enough, go down the outside, and then just as I got past, just moving across to make him think twice about going for that move back into turn 1, and he did think twice, so he backed out. Settled for second now, playing the longer game, which is, I suppose, is very sensible, and he seems like he's on pace. But coming through into the entry of Dunlop, just running slightly wide, so perhaps just trying too hard to keep on terms with Super GT, making that mistake. And I don't think he's going to lose too much time, but he won't want to make too many mistakes like that before he drops too far back. And again, you might as well play the long game, just stay in the race. As long as he's within contact of me, then it's okay. You can see just looking behind there, coming out of the hairpin, he isn't too far behind, so I can't lose my composure now too much, because he will still be able to pounce if I do make a mistake. So into spoon for the 5th time. We are beyond halfway now, so it's going to be again roughly about 20-minute race. So these races do vary in length. Some of the races do go on over half an hour, but some are just under 20 minutes, so it can range between about 18 to 30 minutes. So this one of the shorter races, but it's still nice to be doing these longer races rather than your 3-minute one in a hopper, as I've already mentioned. So coming in here, this is my braking point. You kind of look for that point at the end of those painted lines, and you brake just before you get them, get to that point, and that should see you into the chicane quite nicely. Obviously, it does depend on your car class and everything, but in this kind of class, it's okay. So second place goes into the pit lane there. We just briefly saw that. We've got the little spanner next to his name. So he's gone into the pits. And this is the end of lap number 7, so nearly 2 laps later. So I could have waited to the end of 8, but I thought I'm going to go in for it now. Just short shifting here because it is quite an awkward entry. We saw that BMW go into that wall and I nearly hit the wall as well. So it isn't actually too difficult to do that. And I just about avoided it this time around. And coming out of the pit, so I'm in second, so one of the guys has still got to pit who's in front of me. And we're looking for that gap. I thought it would be very close because he was right behind me when he went for his pit stop, but clearly he's had some mistakes or some sort of battling with someone else, and that's dropped him down. So just looking at the map and the distance, he's about 200-300 feet behind, and that's given me a gap of a couple of seconds. So that's given me some nice breathing room really, as we're coming to the closing stages of the race. Only a lap and a half left to go, and it will take a mistake now I think for him to get past. Indeed, this is the end of lap number 9. The gap was fairly close. I mean, when you consider that this is going to be a 19-minute race, to have someone only a few seconds behind, that is still very close. So it might have looked very comfortable at the end, and I suppose it was, but I still had to have my wits about me at the end of the race. There are the results. So a 2:03.2 at the end, and the BMW doing a 2:02.9. So he was faster, just less consistent. So I was much more consistent, less mistakes, and just waited for the other guys to make the mistakes. And that's how you win races often. It doesn't have to always come down to outright speed. We come to a very speedy circuit actually, Watkins Glen, one without the back chicane. So I'm in second on the grid. This Porsche from the second row is going to go flying into the lead with an amazing hole shot. So straight from third to first for Davy Jones in the RSR. We have the guy who's driving the BMW now driving the Jaguar just ahead in second through the S's onto the back straight. So Watkins Glen, 18 laps. So this is going to be a fairly lengthy race, over half an hour. It's a long lap here, 18 laps as well. It's quite a long count. So we're in this one for the long haul. And again, just like we've mentioned in the Suzuka race, you want to just be patient and let the race come to you. Don't always have to force everything too early. So we can afford to be quite patient here. We've already got a gap to fourth, so you don't really have to worry about defending. You might as well just try to set some good laps, stay on terms with the top two here, and then see if we can pull away as a group. Going in very deep into turn 7, the toe, or I suppose it's turn 6 on this configuration, and then up towards the boot of turn, which is now 7. Breaking on the 200 board, that seems to just set you in nicely into the apex of that corner, and then into the last sequence of the lap. So these two guys are taking a very wide line in, and you can see just almost making contact with his rear quarter panel. Just about managed to back out in time. It was very close, but that's the risk they take by taking that wide line in. Someone behind can just stick their nose up the inside and unsettle you. So I'll bear that in mind. So that first lap was very good. And you see just how close it is. The Jaguar right on the tail of the Porsche. I'm just losing speed a little bit. This is just a little bit further on. So the Porsche a little bit wide into turn 4. The Jaguar's going to look to try to get around the outside into the next corner. I don't think it's quite going to happen there. Although the Porsche does go very deep in sort of a defensive attempt there. And plenty of crisscrossing between the two of them, so it's very good driving. And all this is doing is helping me to get back on terms. So trying to respect each other a lot there by not making any contact. And I just grazed the back of the Porsche, but it's okay. Keeps the car under control. And then into turn number 8. It's still a three-way train here. So this is the kind of racing we love to see, with 3 very good drivers. I mean, if I'm allowed to say that about myself, and then 3 different cars. It's always good to see different cars battling. It kind of shows that the car system or the PI system can work, and the homologation system can work. I think this is one of the better classes for homologation. I'm not really a fan of it overall, but I can see it. I can see its worth in some senses, and in this division, it's very good, and it does work in this division. So then through turn 1, I think the Porsche went in for a little bit of a late lunge into turn 1, didn't really come off. We've just seen on lap 1 and 2 just how quick that Porsche is in a straight line. We're coming up to the longest straight line on the back straight here, the runoff from 3 up to turn 4. So you can see just how quickly that gap is being bridged by the Porsche. So he's pulling away from me onto the back of the Jaguar. He's thinking about going for the move. He's not quite going to go for it there, but he has reduced that deficit already. So that's a massive weapon in his arsenal in this race. It's going to be really hard to beat someone like that who they can keep with you through all the corners, but then as soon as you get to a straight, he's just gone. And you can see here he's done it again, up the inside into the long right-hander of turn 4. And once again, another crossover. It looks like these two guys racing really closely. I was kind of losing touch with them a little bit at this point. You see, it's lap 4 now, 6 minutes into the race. I was just beginning to lose a bit of ground, but this constant crisscrossing by these two guys, which to be honest is really good racing, and it's good to watch, it's only helping me. So of course, driving side by side like that through corners, that's a sub-optimal line. You wouldn't drive that normally if you're on your own. So that's only going to help me. You see by now, so half a lap of driving side by side, all this done really is helping me get back onto the back of these two. And looking up the inside into the left-hander, and we said it a little bit earlier, they take a very wide line in. It gives me the opportunity just to stick my nose in. And he was very respectful of the space, and he kind of just backed out of it, just let me go. So I'm up into second. We're probably going to see him come flying past on one of these straights. We've seen how quick he is in a line, but we're going to do our best to try to get onto the back of the Jaguar. It's a very good race here. 7 minutes in, 3 cars within about a second of each other. So good battling overall. And as we round out the first corner of the 5th lap, 4th place and 5th place a little bit off. Perhaps they would like to be on the back of this battle. Sometimes it can be frustrating to see other people who are as fast as you, but they're a bit further behind. It would be nice to have more people in the battle, but it's still a very nice battle. I'll go defensive to no avail really. I wasn't going to achieve anything really there. By going defensive, he's always going to go past. And you see just how close he gets to going past the Jaguar. That thing is absolutely optimised for that straight line. And he's really making the most of it. Down into the chute corner. We're going to go side by side now for a couple of corners. So I'm going to look around the outside. I know that the next corner is a right-hander, so I've still got the inside line. His car, actually we're fairly even there. I'll go very deep. I suppose his car needs a little bit more of a straight before it really gets going. And a tad too much oversteer on the exit. It's a tiny amount, but it's just enough to send me sideways, lose some vital momentum, and Davy Jones back up into second. So all this battling isn't really achieving too much. I suppose we might as well just all lap in a train until lap 18 and then start fighting, because all we're doing really is just losing time to each other or to the rest of the pack. And I just make an adjustment mid-corner there as I turned in a little bit too early and just had to turn out, resulting in me losing ground. You can see there now I've lost maybe 100 or so feet. And it's going to be hard to reel that one back in. You can see how fast these two guys were, and perhaps now they're going to get to grips with their cars, literally. So this is the situation at the end of lap number 10. You can see on the map, we're coming up to a couple of back markers. The gaps are not still too big, although they are bigger than they were on lap 5. And when you come up to back markers, that's a really good opportunity just to take your pit stop. I mean, you don't want to lose time to back markers, and we all sense that exact opportunity. And second place, the Jaguar was driven into the pit wall entry. So 2 races in a row, we've seen that exact thing. People driving into that wall, and I'm going to come out in second, so I've inherited a position as a result of that. So massive mistake, really big mistake. You see here, I haven't really been driving the fastest. I've just not been making too many mistakes. I did make one on lap 5, but overall driving fairly well. Now there's a bit of lag here, so Davy Jones is still technically ahead of me, so I'm actually now in third. But you'll see him momentarily kind of jump back and forth, so I'll be flipping between third and second. So some strange issues here regarding to lag in this video, but overall I think we're still kind of connected to each other. There are issues on Forza where sometimes 2 people literally cannot see each other. So they're driving as if they're not there, then they somehow collide with nothing, but they hit each other basically because they couldn't see each other. So there are issues with that, but I think in this occasion we can actually see each other. So this outlap, I'm going to run around the entire lap, see how well I go, and it seems like a very clean lap so far. Watkins Glen, it's a very nice track, and once you can hook up an entire lap, it does feel very rewarding to do so. And as we run out of turn number 8 into the last couple of corners on the lap, so a fast sequence of sweeping bends, very common here at Watkins Glen, a very nice track to drive. And coming out of the final corner, there we go. So plenty of barrels strewn across the circuit, plenty of damage being done. So I suppose the only thing that could really do damage to me now is back markers, and this McLaren seems very polite. Just pulls right off to the side, lets me go. You just never know. Is he lurking to give me a big shunt into the next corner? And luckily not. So we're safe this time around. So this is the end of lap 17. You see the gap there, not too big. So this Goggles guy is caught up in third. So he's done well actually to catch up. So we've got one lap here to try to weather the storm and try to win the race. And there's only 12 people remaining. I do believe Davy Jones by this point has actually disconnected or quit the race. So that's a shame for him because he looked odds on to win it. That Porsche was unstoppable once he really got going a couple of laps into the race. But well, I mean, it's not my fault, it's not my problem. I've got to just make the most of the situation, and that situation is me possibly winning a second race in a row. So if I can do that, that'll be very good. So mainly taking our opportunities as they come, making the most of other people's misjudgments or misfortune, and coming out with 2 wins. I suppose that is, I mean, that's a key aspect of motorsport. Sometimes you're not quicker than someone, you're not better than someone, your car isn't as good as someone else, but if they perform badly or have some bad luck, then if you do well, then you're in with a shout of beating them, and you should never feel guilty about doing that. So then a couple of corners left to go, keeping my cool here. You can see it's going to be a 32-minute race, so it's actually a very long race indeed. And once again, just like the Suzuka race, to have 3 cars, or to have a few cars within a couple of hundred feet, you see on the map just how close they are. If I make one big mistake, then they are both through. That's how close it is. To have 3 cars that close to each other after 32 minutes is very good. And it does show good balance in this division. We are going to win the race, there we go. Lap times a low 1:44, and again, Diamond Simone in the Jaguar, faster, but more mistakes. And his crucial mistake was, of course, hitting the pit lane entry. Doesn't help when you do that, in my experience. But there we go, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video as always. The tune and the livery are in the description if you'd like to try this car for yourself. I do hope you enjoyed the video as always. Do sign up to the Forza RC if you haven't done so already. Give it a go. And I hope to see you in the next video. Do subscribe if you're new, and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.